All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the At the Horn podcast. My name is Sammy Hall, and I'm joined with my hosts and friends, Evan Levine, Evan Stern, and Anthony Imbimbo. Fellas, how we doing tonight?
Fantastic. Very good.
Very good.
Doing good. Guys, so just to give a little bit of an outline of what this podcast entails, we're going to be a three-sport podcast, football, basketball, and baseball, and primarily focusing on three professional sports, the NFL, NBA, and MLB. And kind of this podcast is just going to be a discussion. We're going to give our opinions on different topics going on in the leagues. And it's going to be an open discussion. We have a little bit of an outline here, but it's kind of free-flowing, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so the first thing we're going to get into here is our picks for the Week 11 slate in the NFL. And basically, we're not going to be picking against the spread. We're just going to be picking the games without any regard to how the line shakes out. So I guess we'll start it off. We're just going to go down the line here, and we'll talk about the games and what we feel is going to happen. So the first game I want to talk about is the Bengals at Washington football team. And for me personally, I'm going to pick the Bengals in this game. I think Joe Burrow and company are just going to be too much for a struggling Washington football team on their third quarterback. And I'll see what the rest of the guys think. So, Anthony.
Well, I feel like I'm a little biased here. I'm a Giants fan, but I've got the Bengals taking this one. Joe Burrow's looked really good his rookie season. While he may be overmatched by Justin Herbert this far, I don't see the football team being able to stop that offense. It's firepower. Because you got to think they've got a great receiving core right now. And Tyler Boyd, he's a stud. T. Higgins is looking to be a top 3 receiver from the draft other than like CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. And that defense is very underrated for the Bengals. They got Sam Hubbard. He looks really good this year. And, yeah, I'm taking the Bengals here.
Evan Levine.
I also have the Bengals in this one. I think Joe Burrow is an absolute beast this year, and he's learning quickly in the league. I also think Joe Mixon's coming back, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be a huge factor for this offense, and I just don't think the Washington defense is going to be able to stop this powerhouse of an offense.
I also have the Bengals winning this game, but contrary to popular belief, I actually think it'll be a fairly close game. I think Washington's defense will step up a little bit. I think Burrow will struggle a little bit, but I still definitely think they'll pull out with the win.
All right, so a clean sweep for Cincinnati here. And, I feel like, Washington has a really good pass rush, but in the end, I just think Cincinnati's a better team. So we all got Cincinnati there. The next game we're going to talk about is the Atlanta Falcons traveling to New Orleans to play the Saints. For me personally, I'm going to take Atlanta in this matchup on the road. Reason being, Drew Brees out with an injury. We're going to see how Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill fare in a 2-quarterback backfield. And, I just don't trust the Saints enough. I know they're a good team, but I like Atlanta in a trendy upset pick here.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing Atlanta as an upset pick, but I got to take New Orleans now. I know Drew Brees is out for a while, but when he's been fairly ineffective this year, to be honest. You've seen some great regression this year. He is 41, and Jameis proved last year that he is capable of throwing a football, While he did throw 30 interceptions, the dude can chuck it. He also threw, over 30 touchdowns. You just got to think if he has enough weapons and he's smart with the football, he can pull out this win. It's going to be a defensive game. Whoever's defense comes out on top will win. It's whoever prevails because both these offenses are just ridiculous. So whoever's defense turns out to be better will win this game.
I think I also got the Saints here. I think they're going to continue their win streak. I think Kamara's going to have a monster game and feast on the Atlanta defense. Although Breeze is out, as Anthony just said, I think Winston's a great quarterback. He had a great year last year with the Bucks, and I think he can carry through.
I got Atlanta in upset here. I don't think Atlanta's record really shows how defines them as a team this year. I think that offense is insanely good. I do worry about the defense, but again, with Breeze out, I think Jameis Winston's a little bit of a liability at times. But I think the Saints will mix it up with a few packages with Taysom Hill and all. But I still think Atlanta wins the game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Taysom Hill kind of adapts to maybe a larger passing role. He's kind of used as a receiver, running back, Army knife type of guy, but I like to see how he fares in his natural position at QB. So the next game is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, the 9-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, traveling to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. And I think it's going to be a consensus here. I got Pittsburgh in this game. What do you guys think?
So I got the Steelers in this one, but I do think it's going to be closer than everyone else thinks. The Steelers are a very overrated football team this year. You got to look at the wins that they've had. They've won by at most 7, I feel like. There haven't been many blowouts. They almost lost to the Giants week 1. You got to look at that for perspective. And, I know the Jags are pretty terrible this year, and Gardner Minshew's still out. They got a lot of inactives, but I think it will be closer than a lot of people think.
I actually think that the Steelers are going to completely blow out the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are actually horrendous this year, and the Steelers' defense is elite. I also think that I just don't think it's going to be close at all. I'm taking Pittsburgh all the way here.
I got Pittsburgh as well.
Okay, yeah, so not a lot of discussion there. I think Pittsburgh is kind of just a way better team. They have a lot more weapons, veteran quarterback. I think Jake Luton for Jacksonville's performed well in his first couple of games, but they're just a way worse team than Pittsburgh, and I think we're going to see Pittsburgh come out with a win on that one. The next game is going to be the Patriots at the Texans. I personally think this is going to be a competitive game. Patriots are on a little 2-game winning streak here. Although I will say their game against the Jets was not exactly convincing, although their win against the Ravens was pretty convincing, I would say. But I'm going to go with the Texans at home, and that might be considered an upset. I just think Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller is playing really well right now, and I just kind of think the Texans are going to pull this one out.
Regarding this one, I got New England 100%. I'm not a Pats fan in any regards, but I think they will beat Houston this week. Houston's looked weak lately. You look at the game last week against the Browns. Contrary to popular belief, Deshaun Watson looked terrible against Cleveland, I would say. He had 90 yards through 3 quarters. The run game was non-existent with David Johnson, the dude they traded DeAndre Hopkins for. Freaking terrible, terrible, terrible trade. But the Patriots are taking this one in a blowout fashion.
Yeah, I also have New England here. I think that Houston absolutely does not have a run game. It's going to be tough for them to get going offensively. I think Watson has had a decent year so far, but just is not enough for them to pull out a win against New England. New England has a great defense. Their offense is trending up with Rex Burkhead emerging in the run game and Cam Newton picking it back up. So I have New England all the way.
Yeah, New England's going to ride the momentum into this one, and they're going to come out on a 3-game win streak. I got New England in this one.
All right, so 3 of you guys take the Patriots. I'm going with the Texans. We'll see how that turns out. The next game is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, fresh off their defeat at the hands of New York Giants, going to Cleveland to play the Browns. And me, personally, I'm going to take the Browns in this matchup. What I saw last week, because I'm a Giants fan, I watch all the Giants games, and what I saw last week is a struggling Eagles team. Carson Wentz is not playing well. I'm a little bit curious at Doug Peterson's sometimes coaching decisions, going for on 4th down, going for it for 2, and I don't really trust Doug Peterson. I think a lot of Eagles fans feel the same way, and I'm going to go with the Browns in a decisive fashion at home against the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. While I wasn't convinced by really anyone on the Browns other than Nick Chubb's play last week, I think Baker, he's struggling so far, to put it lightly. But I think the Browns take this one because, you got to take the lesser of the 2 evils, basically. Baker's struggling, but Carson Wentz looks like a completely different guy this year. He looks terrible. So I'm taking the Browns in this one. Even though I'm not convinced by them, I'm even less convinced by the Eagles. They're going to push to 7-3 this season.
I also got Cleveland this one. I think Cleveland's run game with Hunt and Chubb is just completely too much for the struggling Eagles. I think the Eagles are horribly offensively. I think it's going to be not close at all, and I think it'll be a blowout for Cleveland.
We got Cleveland too. The Eagles are a team that I cannot trust any week. They're just too inconsistent all around.
All right, so clean sweep for the Browns there. And the next game we're going to dive into is the Detroit Lions taking on the Carolina Panthers. And I know Evan Levine is a Lions fan, and I think this pick will make him happy. I'm going to go with the Lions here. And the reason being, Christian McCaffrey out with an injury like he has been most of the season. We'll see how Teddy Bridgewater, his availability. But either way, I just think Lions, a little bit of momentum from last week's game winner, Matt Prater hitting the 59-yarder at the buzzer. We'll see how Stafford's hand is, but nonetheless, I like Detroit in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to take Detroit as well. I mean, if Stafford starts, they're going to win this game pretty easily. But I would say, I mean, if Teddy Bridgewater starts, it may be close, but I still got Detroit regardless.
Of course, I'm going to take the Detroit Lions. Carolina's riding a huge loss streak. I think Detroit has the momentum from last week to pick it up. I don't think that the running game for Carolina is not going to be good, and that's pretty much the biggest weakness on Detroit's defense is stopping the run. And if Mike Davis is going to have the game like he did last week, I don't think it will be very close, and I think Detroit will win this game.
Detroit wins.
Well, no sugarcoating that one. All right. Another big 1 o'clock matchup here. The Tennessee Titans and the Baltimore Ravens. 2 6-3 teams, both, however, struggling at the moment. For me, I'm going to take Baltimore at home here. You know, both teams, obviously, like I said, are struggling. I just think the Ravens trying to avenge a playoff loss in the divisional round last year. I think that they're a more complete team. I trust Lamar Jackson, the former MVP, to carry his team to victory more than Ryan Tannehill. So I'm going to go with Baltimore in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to take the same. I'm going to go Baltimore for the same exact reasons. I just don't think – I'm not convinced by the Titans at all this year. They look like a much worse football team than last year. Like they had a lot of flukes last year, but I'm not buying it this year. I'm taking Baltimore.
I'm going to take Tennessee. I think it's going to be a lot like the divisional round last year with Titans and Ravens. The Titans are going to show up in the game and completely surprise the Ravens, and I think Derrick Henry's going to have a monster day.
I do agree that Derrick Henry will have a monster game. However, I am picking the Ravens in this one. I think both teams seriously need to get back on track. Both teams will be in the playoffs, but I do think that the Ravens will win this one.
All right, so the next game, the first 4 o'clock game I'm going to talk about is the New York Jets at the Los Angeles Chargers. And, you know, I think Justin Herbert has played really well this season, but they haven't been able to break through in the win column, really, sitting at 2-7. But I think this is the week they pick up another win against a Jets team that is just flat out terrible. I mean, anytime you see the Jets on the schedule, it's an opportunity for a get-right game. So I'm going to take Justin Herbert and the Chargers here.
I'm actually going to go the opposite. I think the Jets go 1-9 after Sunday. Yep, that's right. Very surprise pick. I know Justin Herbert's amazing and all, and I know they just released Pierre Desir, but I think this is the week they finally get one in the win column. I liked what I saw against New England, and I think they'll be able to get it this week.
I'm going to completely disagree with you, Anthony. I think the Chargers are actually going to destroy the Jets. The Jets are horrible, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets, just the defense cannot keep up with Herbert. I really don't think so. Yeah, the Chargers are winning this one.
All right, so Anthony sees the New York Jets and Adam Gase picking up their first one of the season. That should be an interesting one. Next, we're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins traveling to the Denver Broncos, and I'm going to take Miami. You know, Miami's hot right now behind their rookie QB, Tua Tagovailoa. And I just don't see the Broncos being able to compete with Tua and the Dolphins. So I'm taking Miami.
I'm actually going to go Denver here. And this is one of those gut feelings. You know, I haven't really bought – I know Tua's put up stats, but watching him play, I don't know how I feel about him. So I'm going to go Denver.
I'm also going to go Denver here. I think Denver's one of those teams you just haven't really heard about this year. They've played really good teams. I don't think the Dolphins are really that good. They have a good momentum right now, but I think the Broncos are going to show out and shock the Miami Dolphins and pull out a win.
I'm also going to go with Denver here. I think Miami. I think they're a good team, but I think what you're seeing in the past few weeks is a result of special teams and defense, and not so much Tua, despite the stats. And I think Tua might struggle in this one a little bit. So
So you guys see a little bit of a lightning in a bottle situation with Miami. I think that's fair. I can't go against a team that's so hot right now, and Denver's not exactly a powerhouse. So I think I'm pretty satisfied with my Miami pick. Another game and another pick that I'm pretty satisfied with is the Dallas Cowboys against the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota's on a bit of a winning streak here. Dallas, I don't even know who's sitting up at QB this week. So I'm taking Minnesota in a blowout here.
Yeah, the Vikings are taking this one, to put it lightly.
I think Minnesota is a very good team. I think the beginning of the season does not define them, and they're on a hot streak, as you guys said previously. I think they're going to go into this game and completely embarrass Dallas Cowboys and pull out a win.
got Minnesota winning big.
Yeah, no hesitation there. Okay, so the next game is one of the better games on the Sunday slate this weekend. The Green Bay Packers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. I had a little bit of trouble with this pick. Green Bay's on the road. Indianapolis is one of the few teams that have fans in their stands. Could provide a little bit of a home field advantage, especially with Devontae Adams questionable. We don't know if he's going to play, but in the end, I ended up settling on Green Bay because I think Aaron Rodgers is just too good. Colts are a good team, but I just see Aaron Rodgers leading the pack to victory.
Yeah, I gotta second that because even though Devontae Adams may not play in this one, you got Aaron Jones fully healthy for the first time in a couple of weeks, and you remain with Jamal Williams and AJ Dillon off the bench. So I got the Packers winning this one.
I'm actually going to go Indianapolis on this one. I've seen Green Bay's schedule. They've won against pretty bad teams, and the good teams that they have gone against, they either gotten destroyed, as you saw in Tampa Bay, and Minnesota was not a very good game for the Packers also. I think Indianapolis' defense is going to be too much for Aaron Rodgers, and yep, I'm going to Indiana.
I think the Colts team has been a team all year that's kind of been a little undershadowed, not talked about a lot. But I think they're definitely one of the top defenses in the league, and I like the Colts in this one. I got Colts.
Okay, so we're split on America's Game of the Week on Fox. Sunday Night Football, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs head to Las Vegas to play Derek Carr and the Raiders. And I know the Raiders took the first matchup. I think the Raiders are a very solid squad. I just can't imagine Mahomes losing to them twice in the same season. I'm going with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs as well for the same reason. You got a chip on your shoulder with Mahomes, and I can't see him losing this one here. I'm going with Chiefs.
I'm going to go Las Vegas here. I really like the Raiders this year. I think Derek Carr is really good, and I don't see them winning. The Chiefs winning.
I think the Chiefs win this one, and for the exact same reason as Sam said. I watched the first game, and there was a lot of poor play from the Chiefs at times, while also the Raiders they definitely stepped up, but I just don't see them losing twice in one season to those guys. So I like the Raiders in this one, or the Chiefs in this one.
Okay, and the last game of the weekend, Monday Night Football. The LA Rams travel to Tampa Bay to play Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And, I think the Bucs are very inconsistent team. I mean, they have a good record, obviously, but what I saw against the Giants, they didn't wow me. They obviously got pummeled by the Saints a couple weekends ago. So with that said, I'm going to actually take the Rams in a bit of an upset here on the road on Monday night.
For this one, I'm going to take the Bucks. You just got to think, even though the Rams defense is ridiculous, they got a nice guy with Jalen Ramsey there. They've just got so many weapons they can go to, and the greatest quarterback of all time. And now, after last week, you may even have Rojo, and Leonard Fournette, and Antonio Brown, and Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, and the list keeps going. Gronk, Cameron Brate, everyone can catch the ball. Everyone can run with the ball. It's just the offense is too much for the Rams defense to handle. I'm taking the Bucks.
Agree with you very much here, Anthony. I just think the Bucks offense is too unstoppable, even though the Los Angeles defense is very good. I just see the Bucks pulling this one out. It's going to be a close game,
though. I'm extremely fascinated by the NFC West this year. Just a heck of a conference or a division. And I was very impressed with the Rams last week, but I do have the Bucs winning this one. I think Tom Brady, I think he pulls it out.
Not surprised that the Patriots fan goes with their former QB Tom Brady. So that's going to wrap up our Week 15 or Week 11 picks, excuse me. And I guess we'll see next week how we did, and we'll just keep building off it. We're going to keep a tally of our record. I know we're starting in Week 11, but it's the best we can do. Obviously, we can't go back in time and pick the games. So, yeah. Now we're going to move on to the NBA draft from last night. And it was a very interesting draft, in my opinion. I thought, well, first let's start off with the top 3 picks. Anthony Edwards went number 1 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wiseman went number 2. James Wiseman went number 2 to the Warriors. And LaMelo Ball went number 3 to the Hornets. I'm curious to hear what you guys think, but I thought that it was a very expected top 3. I guess you could have debated whether or not LaMelo or Edwards would have gone 1, but I thought in the end Edwards was the pick, and I'm kind of not surprised with how the top 3 turned out. I guess I'll go over to Anthony. Anthony, what do you think about the top 3 and those 3 guys and how they'll fit in the league?
I mean, I really thought LaMelo was going to go number 1. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I don't know if I would have made that decision. I think they did make the right decision with Anthony Edwards because he lines up nice with D'Lo and everyone else, but I mean, I've seen a lot of questions about Anthony Edwards and his love for basketball. He was quoted as saying something where if the NFL called tomorrow, he'd go. I'm not buying that. I think Anthony Edwards has all the tools and all the work ethic to actually make it big in the NBA. I think he'll be good. And the same goes for Wiseman. Wiseman's a generational talent at the 5. He can shoot, he can defend, he's got it all. And then LaMelo, there's a lot of questions on defense, and how his role will fit in with the Hornets, to be honest, because they got Terry Rozier, they got Devontae Graham. You got to decide who's coming off the bench, if they're going to trade someone, what's going to happen with that. But I think overall, all 3 picks work out nice for the teams.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Anthony here. I was a little surprised that LaMelo did not come number 1. But, I mean, most of the mock drafts that I read had those 3 going in that order to those teams. I think Edwards is going to be pretty good. We'll see how he turns out, but I think personally he's going to be pretty good. I think Wiseman is the best player in this draft. I think he has the most talent and most ceiling. I think he's going to go have a great rookie season with the Warriors, and let's see if they can make the playoffs this year. And I think LaMelo is the right pick for Charlotte. I think that he was the best player on the board at the time. Although they got a ton of guards, I think he is going to take over the starting role, and he's going to bring a lot more publicity to the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely convinced on really any of these top 3 guys. I definitely think Wiseman was the best in the draft. Edwards, obviously, the questions about the love of basketball. And to be completely honest with you, I'm just not sold on LaMelo at all. I personally think he's overrated, and I'm not a huge fan of the fit at the Hornets either. I just think he's going to get undershadowed, and it's not going to work out. The questions about the shooting and the defense, it's just like two huge things in the league. Like, yeah, I mean, if you can pass a basketball, you can dribble, you have it, but you don't have the complete package. And I think with such a talented NBA, I just don't know how much of a role he's really going to have. I'm not buying in completely yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how LaMelo Ball's career, or at least his rookie season, is going to turn out in Charlotte. And this is a question I kind of want to. Any of you guys can answer this. Anyone can just speak up. I'm just kind of curious what you guys think. A guy like LaMelo Ball, who obviously has been well known since his freshman year of high school, a flashy guy. He's box office. Everyone wants to see him play. How do you think a guy like that will fit in a smaller market in Charlotte, obviously owned by Michael Jordan, but a smaller market with lesser-known players, a lesser-known coach, and James Borrego, who I actually think is pretty good. What do you guys think about that?
Not well.
Yeah, he'll turn out.
Yeah, not well. I think LaMelo needs a big market to be successful, to be honest. I think he needs a lot of guys in the stadium. I think he needs all the hype. And I mean, while in Charlotte, he may turn into like a Zion type where the NBA gravitates towards him because of his name. He's going to draw in seats and stuff like that. But I mean, especially with the COVID lockdown, there's probably not going to be guys there anyways. I think it'll go fine the first year, but after a while, I think it's going to get old. He won't be there for more than 3-4 years.
I don't know if you guys recall, but back when Lonzo was going into the draft, his loudmouth father decided it would be the greatest idea to hype him up and this and that, hype up the family. Now, Lonzo's no good. I don't think Lonzo's very good. Yes, he's a great defender. Other than that, no, he sucks. So that's how I look at this, and I don't see much difference happening here.
I do not think Lonzo sucks, Evan. I think that Lonzo is actually pretty good. I think that he's a great passer. He is very good on defense, and that you're completely. I think you maybe have something against Lonzo, Evan. So I don't know. But for LaMelo,
I happen to
think
be against
actually,
the whole family, but that's a different story.
Oh, okay. All right, Evan. All right, whatever. But I think LaMelo is gonna do just fine in Charlotte his first year, and I am completely open-minded for LaMelo, and we're gonna see what happens. I see we have some doubters of him in this.
Bust.
Okay, well, I'm a believer. I think LaMelo is gonna prove the haters wrong.
Okay, so I know we have a little bit of animosity building here, so I think it'll be best if we move on. I know Anthony and Evan Levine, you guys are big Knicks fans, and I think as just an NBA fan or a person who watches the NBA, I think it's safe to say the Knicks had a pretty successful draft last night, with one of their top guys, Obi Toppin, falling to 8 right in their laps. Before I ask you guys what you think about not only Toppin but the whole draft and their offseason plan moving forward, I just want to say I like the pick of Toppin. I think he's a guy that can come in right away. He's going to produce. Obviously, he's a veteran at the college level, so he has experience. He's very polished. My one worry is, though, I know they took Emmanuel quickly out of Kentucky later in the draft, but, I'm kind of concerned with the lack of point guard depth in New York. I thought Tyrese Halliburton was a good pick there at 8. I think he's going to end up being one of the better players in the draft. I'm just nervous how they're going to fill out that point guard spot. I know they have a couple of free agency options, such as like Fred VanVleet. But, I think it was important they needed to address the point guard position. You can't pass on a guy who's number 1 on your board, at the top of your board, so I don't disagree with the pick in any way, and it's nothing against Toppin. I just think it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how they fill out that point guard spot. So I guess Evan or Anthony, you can take it, and what do you guys think of the draft and what they're going to do moving forward?
Well,
before these Knicks guys go, I got to agree. I think that the Knicks, that was a great pick for them. I think it's a good fit too. Obviously the best player on the board at that time, and I personally wasn't expecting him to fall where he did, but I think it was a great pick.
Well, thank you for that though. But regarding point guards for the Knicks, I think they have to target a veteran in free agency that can possibly develop guys like Emmanuel Quickly or Miles Powell. Even though Powell may come out of the 2, he could also come out of the 1 because he is considered undersized. But I looked at guys like perhaps like a Jeff Teague or Jordan Clarkson, maybe a DJ Augustine, just someone to fill the role. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but the Knicks aren't going anywhere this year. They're probably not going to make the playoffs unless they get a splash player like RJ Barrett to just pop off. Or if the front office swings a deal for Russell Westbrook out of nowhere, I wouldn't be opposed to that with the right offer. I don't want to give up anyone, including RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly, Mitch Robinson. I would give up Kevin Knox for Russell Westbrook in a heartbeat, though. Kevin Knox is a bust. He's terrible. He's the worst NBA player in the league right now. He should be off a roster. He's terrible. He doesn't shoot the ball well. He doesn't defend well. He stands in the corner, puts up shots, and he misses every single game. He had 6 points per game last year with 20 minutes a game. That's sad for a first-round pick. Should have gone MPJ. Rant over.
Yeah, before you go, Evan Levine, I just want to say the whole point of the Knicks not making the playoffs, I think it's kind of interesting because in the Eastern Conference this year, I don't necessarily rule out the Knicks potentially making a playoff run, maybe for a 7th or 8th seed, or even with the new format this year with the play-in tournaments for the 9 and 10 seed. I can easily see the Knicks being in at least one of those play-in games and vying for a chance at the playoffs. I mean, if you think about it, you expect a guy like RJ Barrett to be your number one and take a step forward. Obviously, I think Toppin's going to produce. And I think Mitchell Robinson's a very solid young player. But if you add a veteran in free agency, right? I know one of my favorites, Gordon Hayward, is a potential option for the Knicks. I think he gives you a guy that can come right in, average 20 points a game if he's given the opportunity. He's a good playmaker, 50, 40, 90 guy potentially. I think Hayward's a stud, and I think he was very underappreciated and underrated by the NBA and Celtics fans in general, but also another guy like Fred VanVleet. I know the Knicks have the cap space, and I think it's important for them if they want to compete moving forward. They need to land a bigger guy in free agency. Obviously, their misses last year was devastating, and I think it's time they finally land on a guy who can come in and produce right away. Maybe not superstar talent good, but just another solid guy like Hayward or VanVleet. I think that would be crucial to the team. I think with, like I said, the expanded playoffs, they have a real chance of at least getting into one of those playing games, and I guess we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here, Sam. I think it wouldn't be such a bad thing if they did bring in 1 or 2 veteran players to help develop some of the young players. The Knicks are making some big roster moves today. I think that we're definitely headed into the right direction. I think the Obi Toppin pick was definitely the best pick for them. I think that it's finally going to fix the horrific floor spacing that was caused by Julius Randle last year. I think that the whole team is going to improve for it. And again, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, as Anthony said. They're a young team, a young team now. I don't see them going to make an 8 seed or 7 seed, or maybe they'll make the play-ins, but I don't see them making it. But they're heading in the right direction. I trust Leon Rose. I trust whatever he has to do. We're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think clearly for the first time in a while, the Knicks finally have a sense of direction and continuity in the front office. I think they have a good coach in Tom Thibodeau. And clearly Leon Rose is impressed in his first draft. Free agency obviously starts tomorrow night, so we'll see how that shakes out. But if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm excited for the future, and I think that future could be earlier than most people think, including this season. So one of the last things I want to go into here is who you guys think are potential steals and reaches in this year's NBA draft. And I have a couple written down here, but I'm going to hold off. I want to leave you guys to hear what you say first and who you think could potentially be better than where they were drafted or worse than when they were drafted.
To start with a reach, Patrick Williams at 4. I audibly gasped when I heard the P come out of Adam Silver's mouth because I knew who was picked. That's a terrible selection. Like, I just don't understand why you go someone that can maybe make it and has the tools to maybe make it when Obi Toppin's on the board, pretty much the same position, who's a guarantee. Now, like, I don't like to put guarantee on someone's name, but I'm very confident in Obi Toppin this year. And Patrick Williams, I can't see it. I really can't. Like, I see role player. He's going to be okay in the NBA. Don't get me wrong, but you can't be good in the NBA, I feel like, if you're not putting up any numbers with minutes in college. Like, I get he might grow into his body, but his numbers just don't say anything for me, and I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Williams, I think at number 4 was a very I also have him down as one of my reaches, and I don't think it's fair to necessarily call him a reach. I think Patrick Williams has potential to be a good player, and I can see why the Pistons and the Bulls liked him. There are reports that the Pistons were even trying to leapfrog the Bulls to get 3 and take Williams. So obviously he was highly coveted. I think with Patrick Williams, it's hard to call him a reach. I mean, if they knew Detroit was going to end up taking him at 7, maybe you could have traded down a couple spots. But, I think with a guy like Williams, it's like the deal in the NBA is you want to draft the guy. Probably why Obi Toppin fell farther than we expected. I think a lot of NBA teams nowadays draft based on potential rather than right away impact. And especially for a team that's bad, you want guys you can develop and can help you win in the future, not necessarily right away. And I think Williams has a lot of defensive potential. He can shoot the ball well. And I think with the right coach, he can be molded into a really solid player. So I can see why he went early. I'm not necessarily surprised. He rose up the draft boards weeks before the draft. So I'm excited to see Patrick Williams' career. Evan Levine, do you have any potential steals that you would like to address, and who you think maybe got a good deal during the draft?
I'm actually going to talk about another reach. I think that Killian Hayes was a reach. I think that Tyrese Halliburton was a better point guard on the board for the Pistons. I really think that Killian Hayes is good, but I just don't think he's as good as Tyrese Halliburton. If the Pistons saw something in him, I don't think many people do that he was going to go that high. I thought he was going to be in the early teens, but he ended up in Detroit. I think he's quite a reach.
And that goes back to my point. I think the Pistons are a team who are not going to be competitive for a while. And I think drafting Killian Hayes allows them to kind of develop for the future. I also know they got a couple other guys like Sadiq Bey later in the draft. And I think these guys are kind of brought in to fit Dwayne Casey's mold in Detroit. We saw it in Toronto, but I think they want hard-nosed guys who can play hard, defend. And eventually I think they're going to be able to be developed into solid players. And, it's hard on the draft. Every night or every week after the draft, everyone seems like they could potentially be good. And we always see guys end up turning out poorly, and we can never really predict who's going to be good and who's going to be bad. But a steal that I would like to say, I know Halliburton's obvious. I think he's going to be pretty solid for the Kings. I'm interested to see the fit between De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton. I think nonetheless Halliburton was pretty good and great value for Sacramento at 12. Another guy, the pick after Kyra Lewis at 13, the speedster out of Alabama. I was really high on Kyra Lewis. I was praying the Celtics would take him at 14. Obviously, they took Nesmith, which I'm happy with. But I think Kyra Lewis has potential to be great. He's super quick. He can shoot the ball well. He's athletic. He can defend. I mean, he can do it all. And I think he's going to be a really good young player for the Hornets, or not the Hornets, the Pelicans. And I'm interested to see where he fits into that point guard rotation. Obviously, you got Lonzo Ball, the addition of Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. It's going to be a crowded backcourt, but I think Lewis has the potential to stand out, and I'm excited to see what Stan Van Gundy can do with him. Another steal I want to talk about was actually the first pick of the second round, Tyrell Terry, and a Stanford. This is another guy I wanted the Celtics to draft, and I think Tyrell Terry is just a lights-out shooter. He's going to fit well in Dallas next to Doncic and Porzingis. Just a fast player. They like to play fast. They're very he's a very polished player coming in. He can shoot the ball, obviously, like I said. And I just think he's a very nice fit for what Dallas is trying to do there. So those would be my steals that I had written down. Another potential reach that I had is Isaiah Stewart at 16 to Detroit. And the reason I say that is because I think Isaiah Stewart is solid. He was a high regarded prospect coming out of high school. I'm interested to see how he does. But at the same time, I feel like Isaiah Stewart was a guy who was projected in the late 20s, maybe even early second round. And I think the Pistons, with all the trades they made, could have easily moved down a couple of spots and picked them there. But then again, I'm a big believer if you have your guy, you want to take him regardless of where you are. And I think that the Pistons, clearly he was one of their guys. So I applaud them for going out and getting their guys. So it's hard to say with the steals and reaches, but I think instant analysis says that those guys that I mentioned were steals and reaches. You guys have any other guys you want to add or no?
Well, steals wise, I had a bunch of those guys. I had Halliburton and Toppin, as well as Precious Achua. I like that pick a lot. But I really wanted to get into two guys. Peyton Pritchard, I believe he went to Boston. Thought that was a really good pick for them. He's a nice scorer. They can use him off the bench, hopefully. And then I really like to pick to Charlotte and Vernon Carey. And I saw a lot of guys that didn't like this pick, but I don't. I was reading up on this guy, and I understand that his defense resembles like a Jahlil Okafor, but I don't like to put labels on guys like that, like comparisons. I want to see what he's got. And there's a reason Jahlil Okafor went early in the first round. He showed promise. And I get that this is a big dude who can't really run that fast. He has some shooting issues, but he can rebound for real. He had, I think, 13 rebounds this past year with Duke a game. I mean, that's just impressive. And he was one of the number one guys coming out of high school before. I think he shows a lot of promise for a second round pick.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Anthony. I think Vernon Carey I was surprised that he fell that far down. I also think Trey Jones fell a little far down in the draft. I think he's a pretty good point guard. I think that some teams passed on him and they might regret it, but the Spurs got a steal out of him, I believe.
Yeah, and the last steal I'm going to say is my boy Elijah Hughes going to the Jazz at pick 39. Eli's my guy. I like watching him at Syracuse, and I think I was excited to see where he get picked. I think he's a guy that can come in right away and score. He can shoot lights out. He can get to the hole. I think he's a great 3-level scorer. But I think under the tutelage of Jim Boeheim, I think he's really developed. And I've seen his development over his years at Syracuse. He became the number one guy this past season. I'm really excited to see how Elijah Hughes can make an impact at the NBA level. So with that being said, I think we're going to wrap it up here for our first episode of the At the Horn podcast. I want to thank you guys, Evan Stern, Evan Levine, and Anthony, for joining me. This was fun, and we'll be back with a future podcast talking about our Week 12 picks, NBA free agency review, maybe some MLB free agency preview, and I guess we're just going to go from there. So I don't know if you guys have anything else to say, but yeah, it was fun.
Enjoyed it, as usual.
Yeah, thank you, guys. All right.
Good time.
We'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.
See you guys.
Thank you.